Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to Mr. Iwry for your time here today. Many Nebraskans have expressed their concern to me that many of the changes made to this healthcare law have been made without congressional approval. And I was wondering, is the administration working on legislation that they would propose before Congress to codify any of these changes that have already been made?
Congressman, are you referring to the transition relief with respect to the employer shared responsibility?
Really, any of the
provisions?
changes. Can you agree that there have been many changes made or delays in time frames and so forth that have been issued? Is the administration working on anything to propose that in the form of legislation?
Congressman, the Treasury Department, and I can speak for only with respect to Treasury since that's where I work, the Treasury Department has exercised its authority to provide various safe harbors for businesses and other stakeholders, transition relief for stakeholders of various kinds, pursuant to its well-established and long-held authority under Section 7805A of the Internal Revenue Code. We have authority to interpret the tax code, and particularly, sir, when there is a new law, what the statute refers to as an alteration of the law relating to internal revenue, authority with respect to a new law to issue rules and regulations to give effect to it. And when we get the kind of credible comments from stakeholders that we received regarding the need for more transition relief in some cases, or as much simplification and streamlining as possible, which we've tried our best to do in the case of the reporting as well as the employer responsibility
there are
regulations.
There are many folks who are concerned that the executive authority is not being used appropriately, and would the administration be open to, from your perspective, be open to proposing legislation that would codify any of these changes?
Congressman, the kind of practical, common sense interpretations of the tax statutes at issue that Treasury has provided in connection with employer responsibility regulations and the reporting regulations are consistent with Treasury's existing statutory authority. That statute exists in the form of Section 7805A of the Internal Revenue Code, as it has been in effect not only recently but for years and for more than 2 decades, sir. Treasury Department.
No legislation would be necessary, is what you're saying?
No legislation would be necessary beyond, since we have the legislative authority in 7805A to issue the rules and regulations that we have issued with respect to employer responsibility and employer and insurer reporting. That legislation is already on the books, and we have exercised it in much the same way that previous Treasury Department under previous administrations, both Republican and Democrat, have exercised that existing statutory authority.
Okay, following up on Mr. Johnson's questions relating to the information contained associated with the Social Security numbers and other information, has the IRS tested if they have the ability to process and protect the gathering of the information that certainly I would think would be shared at a much greater velocity as there are more questions being asked on tax returns relating to healthcare? Congressman,
this is not a matter of personal health information being shared with
Okay,
the IRS. We're talking about,
but has the IRS tested the security of that information?
I
to your knowledge?
believe, to my knowledge, sir, and I'm at Treasury, I don't work in the IRS per se, but my understanding is that the IRS constantly checks its systems to make sure that the kind of security of information and privacy that the committee is expressing concern about, and that the administration is likewise extremely concerned, be kept, maintained in as tight a way as possible, as protective a way as possible for the American taxpayer and the American people in general, that the IRS continually makes sure that its systems are secure and do protect individual taxpayer information from breaches of security or breaches of privacy. And indeed, the current system where employers obtain Social Security numbers from individuals and where Social Security numbers are placed on the tens of millions of 1040 returns that are filed every year, the Social Security numbers on millions of 1099 reports, numbers collected by financial institutions and submitted to the IRS on those reports, that's all part of that system, and
Right.
I know the IRS takes the utmost care with that.
Thank you,
Mr. Iwry. All times expired. Mr.